Skeletons of the Marital Closet by Tang.
Chapter 1741. Give me an answer soon, Shawn demanded. Although Gale did not think much of the red wine, nor did she feel there was anything wrong, Shawn keenly sensed something was off. Given Gale's physical condition last night, she should have been very tired. Yet, she could not sleep. The wine seemed suspicious. Shawn needed to investigate. Hopefully, it was nothing more. Fiona nodded. All right. Also, Ivy's agency wants to meet with you. When would be convenient for you? I don't want to go. Arrange for someone else to handle it. What if Ivy wants to see you? Still no. Shawn had done what he could to help. If the agency was willing to transfer Ivy's contract, that was enough. He did not need to get involved anymore, and did not want any more private dealings with Ivy. He learned enough from his last encounter with her. The stack of photos was more than enough to keep him away. Yes, Mr. Wood. I'll reject them. Anything else? Fiona noted down. That's all? Shawn waved his hand and gazed into the distance. He was contemplating a question. What if it was truly Orem, and they exposed him? To Gale, Orem was a lifelong friend and had helped her countless times. The debt of gratitude was not yet repaid. Would she forgive him? Shawn lowered his eyes. Hopefully, it was not Orem. He would better be sensible like Sam, just know where he stands and return to where he came from, silently admiring Gale from afar. At the lobby of the Wood Group, the receptionist put down the phone and politely replied, Sorry, Miss Ivy. Mr. Wood is temporarily unavailable. Please come back later. This was not the outcome Ivy had expected. Mr. Wood was refusing to see her. Ivy could only accept this reality. All right, thank you. She nodded. If you have any business, you can contact President Wood's assistant. Mr. Wood is very busy, the receptionist reminded. Ivy smiled. Got it. She came specifically to thank Shawn. Her contract was already being transferred. From now on, Ivy would be a free person, free to take on roles she wanted to play, and no one could force her. She was her own boss. No longer would anyone be able to threaten her with a piece of paper. All of this was thanks to Mr. Wood and Gale. Exiting the Wood Group, Ivy headed toward her car. She was lost in thought, looking down and not paying attention to the road. A young man was skateboarding, going fast, somewhat out of control. He was in front of Ivy in a flash. He shouted loudly, Move aside, I can't stop. Quickly move. By the time Ivy looked up, it was too late. She only saw the person and the skateboard coming straight toward her. Her pupils dilated, standing still, not knowing what to do. Just then, a pair of hands suddenly reached out, grabbed her arm, and forcefully pulled her aside. Chapter 1742. Ivy stumbled, completely losing control and falling sideways. However, she did not fall to the ground, but the arms of a stranger. The person held her, stepping back several steps before finally managing to stabilize themselves. Once he regained his balance, Ivy heard him ask, Are you all right? She looked up at him. She saw a handsome man dressed in a suit, with refined manners, his eyes filled with worry and care, his features gentle. Even though Ivy had seen countless male celebrities in the entertainment industry, all sorts of handsome guys she had collaborated with, the moment she saw this man, she could not help but sigh inwardly. He looked like a proper gentleman. This kind of demeanor could not be cultivated in just a day or two. It was the aura of a rich, refined young man who had grown up in a life of luxury. First, I'm fine, thanks to you. Ivy shook her head. She had actually been staring at this man the whole time, losing her senses. Now that she snapped out of it, Ivy felt a bit embarrassed. Meanwhile, the young man on the skateboard looked back, saw that she was okay, and then swiftly skated away, soon disappearing from sight. Orem let go of her hand and brought it back to his side. These skateboarders are too dangerous. If he had collided with you, you both would have been hurt, he remarked. Yeah, I just happened to not be looking. Thank you, otherwise I'd be in the hospital today, Ivy replied. Don't mention it. It was just a small effort on my part. With that said, Orem took a step back, preparing to leave. Ivy turned around and called out to him. Wait, may I ask? What's your name? You saved me, and I'd like to thank you. Orem Lefting. Lefting. That's a rare surname, Ivy said. Orem nodded, still very polite. Next time you're walking, try to keep your eyes on the road. All right. He gave her a smile. It seemed like the interaction between the two of them would end there. However, at that moment, Gale's voice rang out. Ivy! Oh, Orem? How come you two are here? She walked briskly looking around. Do you two know each other? Both Orem and Ivy shook their heads at the same time. What a coincidence. Let me introduce you. Gale stood between the two of them. This is Orem, my friend and childhood buddy, also the CEO of the Lefting Group. This is Ivy, the actress. You must have seen her work. Orem looked surprised. You're Ivy? Yes. With that, Ivy took off her sunglasses and mask, revealing her elegant face. She had to shoot an advertisement later, so she had to put on makeup. Compared to her usual bare face, she looked a bit more beautiful. No wonder I always felt like I'd seen you somewhere. Your voice sounds familiar. I didn't recognize you in your off-duty get-up. Turns out, I've seen you on TV and in movies, Orem said. To avoid the paparazzi, I try my best to cover up. Even my mom wouldn't recognize me. Ivy generously reached out her hand. Nice to meet you, Mr. Lefting. A pleasure to meet you for the first time. Orem shook her hand. I'm also glad to meet you, Ivy. Gale tactfully stepped back. It felt like the beginning of something. Chapter 1743. They stood there looking like quite a compatible pair. Although their hands only briefly clasped for a few seconds, there was an inexplicable intimacy. You two don't know each other, so how come you're standing here together? I even saw you talking, Orem replied. Ms. Ivy had a little trouble, and I happened to be nearby, so I gave her a hand. Ivy nodded. That's right, thanks to Mr. Lefting. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to shoot my advertisement today. Gale could not help but laugh. This is called fate, destiny. People destined to meet will always come together, Gale said. Ivy glanced at Orem and then looked away. I'll take my leave. She put on her sunglasses. I have another shot to catch. Gale, bye. See you when I have some free time. Okay, bye. Watching Ivy get into the car, Gale casually asked, She looks even better in person than on TV, right? Yes, she's very beautiful. Right. You think so too? She's truly beautiful and elegant. She stands out among a sea of female stars. She's the spokesperson I selected for my jewelry brand. She was trying to set him up with Ivy. If Gale had not appeared in his life, he would choose Ivy. Ivy and Gale shared many similarities. Although Orem had not interacted much with Ivy, he could tell that her personality, way of handling things, and worldview were very similar to Gale's. Based on how Ivy did not throw herself at Shawn yet kept her distance, Orem actually admired her a bit more. She would be a good girl. Also, she would be a good piece on the chessboard. Orem looked at the car and smiled. The car would not be leaving. Sure enough, a minute passed, and the car remained still, not moving an inch. What's going on? She's not leaving, Gale murmured. Orem said, Maybe something's delaying it? Gale patiently waited for a while longer, but the car still did not move. The driver got out. Then Ivy got out too, with a slight frown on her brow, looking somewhat surprised. What's wrong? Is the car facing difficulties? Gale asked. Ivy nodded. Yes, it won't start. Ivy's personal assistant beside her said, What do we do? Call a cab? The photography studio for the advertisement is in the suburbs, far from here. Taxis probably won't be willing to go there. No one expected the car to fail to start. Gale really wanted to say, why not let Orem give you a ride? If he was not busy, that is. However, she definitely could not bring herself to say it. Ivy would not think of Orem in that way either. Only Orem could mention it on his own. However, Gale felt it was a bit precarious. Although Orem had a good temperament and was easy to get along with, he was not a pushover. He was busy with work, and this was the first time he and Ivy had met. He was not obligated, let alone necessary, to help out in this situation. At most, he could help arrange another car. Unexpectedly, Orem spoke up. If Miss Ivy is willing, I can give you a ride. Gale's eyes widened instantly. What a surprise. Chapter 1744. Gale quickly concealed her excitement. Orem had actually offered to send Ivy. Goodness! What did this mean? A man offering to escort a woman could only imply one thing. He was interested in her. Ivy was also taken aback. Mr. Lefty, you'd send me? Yes, Orem confirmed. Ivy hesitated, unsure if she should accept. Gale was practically bursting with eagerness. She was itching to agree on Ivy's behalf. Fortunately, after some thought, Ivy nodded. If Mr. Lefting doesn't mind the trouble, I'd appreciate it. No problem, it's conveniently on my way. I'm heading to a film and television production company to meet with a director, Orem said. A director? Yes, the company is preparing to invest in a film or TV series, so I need to negotiate. When Gale heard this, she thought it was fate at work again. She immediately suggested, have you cast the lead role yet? Why not consider Ivy for it? Orem chuckled. Ivy's company and mine have some business dealings. If it's suitable, I'll have the script sent to her agent. No need. Ivy is a freelance artist now, with her own studio. If you have a good script and investment, just approach her directly. Gale waved her hand. Is that so? Orem raised his eyebrows in surprise. Then, Miss Ivy and I can talk. Yes, you two talk it out. Gale's joy was evident, and she did not hide it at all. You have plenty of time on the road to discuss. A car ride was such a good opportunity for solitude, a chance to discuss work or life. Was that not how relationships are cultivated? Orem drove while Ivy sat in the passenger seat. Gale waved at them. Bah! Drive safely and take care. Watching the car drive away, Gale breathed a sigh of relief, feeling great. She hummed a tune as she headed toward Wood Group. Just as she turned around, she bumped into a sturdy embrace. Ow! Gale instinctively stepped back, her waist tensing up, but the person pulled her into his arms. Without even looking, she knew who it was. Shawn, how did you sneak up behind me like that? Gale rubbed her nose. When did you arrive? Just now. Can't you make some noise when you walk? Shawn replied calmly. You were too focused. That's why you didn't notice me. What's making you so happy, Gale? She immediately shared. Did you see the car that just left? Yes, that was Orem's car. Shawn would recognize his love rival's car anywhere. Moreover, there seemed to be a woman in the passenger seat. That's Ivy. Gale was extremely excited. He's giving Ivy a lift on his way to the studio for her shoot. And Orem is about to do some business in the film industry, investing in a major production. Imagine if Ivy were cast as the female lead. Wouldn't that be great? This way, Orem and Ivy's interactions would become more frequent. Chapter 1745. Affection would come with time. Is Orem getting involved in the film and television industry? Are you sure? Shawn asked. He just said it himself. The director has already been confirmed. We're just waiting for the script to be polished and the lead actor to be confirmed. Then, this project can go ahead. Shawn furrowed his brows slightly. Lefting Group's business had never included film and television. Why did Orem want to do a project in the film and television industry? Especially now, when Gale and Ivy have only just met recently. Was it a coincidence or a careful plan? This reminded Shawn of those photos. For someone to instruct the paparazzi to stake out and even dare to send him the photos and still be undiscovered, this person must be powerful and familiar with him. This person was likely Orem. However, that was only Shawn's suspicion. He lacked compelling evidence. Shawn? Gale waved her hand in front of his eyes. What are you thinking about? Why are you spacing out? I'm talking to you, you know. I'm listening. Go on. Forget it. Never mind. She pouted, then quickly smiled again. I really hope the first project Ivy gets as a freelancer is Orem's movie. It's bound to do well at the box office. Shawn listened quietly to her chattering, holding her hand, and walked toward the company. Gale meddles too much. He preferred to handle the unpleasant ones for her. However, Shawn still hopes that the person behind the scenes is not Orem. Because if Gale finds out, She will be very upset. Orem has always been a steady driver, and there was a faint fragrance emanating from the car. Thanks a lot for today, Mr. Lefting. You saved me and even gave me a ride, Ivy said, adjusting the loose strands of hair falling beside her ear. Just call me by my name. No need to be too formal. Orem smiled. Then you can call me Ivy. I've seen your award-winning work. Your acting is excellent. You portrayed the character very well. When I watched it, I thought it must be the best film of the year. Sure enough, you deservedly won the Best Actress award, Orem said. For actors, good scripts and good directors are hard to come by, Ivy replied. Orem held the steering wheel, occasionally glancing at her. You can look at the script for the film I'm working on now. If you think it's suitable, you can audition for it. But I can't guarantee if it will work out. It all depends on the director's opinion. After a few seconds, he added, it also depends on your acting skills. I think, with your professionalism, there shouldn't be a problem. It's just that the director may have his own views. Suddenly, Ivy chuckled twice. What's wrong? Did I say something wrong? Orem asked. In the film and television industry, investors hold the greatest influence. We call them the backers. They decide who they want to cast. They have the final say. So it's common for there to be changes, and people being added to the cast at the last minute. But with you, it's different, Ivy explained. She was very surprised that Orem respected the director's opinion so much. His behavior was completely opposite to the current norms and practices in the entertainment industry. Chapter 1746. I'm an amateur. The director is a professional. The success of a film or TV production isn't achieved by me throwing money around and giving orders. That's art, something I don't understand. My role is investments only. So it's better not to interfere too much with the director's creative process, Orem replied. Ivy nodded, her admiration evident in her eyes. The director would also be pleased to have an investor like you. It's mutual. He wants art, I want profit. He's the director, I'm the businessman. With that, Orem turned to her, a slight smirk playing at his lips. Ivy, are you hoping I'll use my so-called power as an investor to directly cast you as the female lead? Ivy shook her head repeatedly. That's not what I meant. You misunderstand. First. Before she could finish, Orem interrupted. Actually, I hope you'll allow me to use that power to cast you. Her heart skipped a beat. The implications of his words were profound. Ivy was prone to overthinking, but she did not dare in this case. Orem did not continue the conversation. Instead, he changed the subject. Although the script hasn't been finalized, you're very suitable from what I've seen of the character profiles. In the entertainment industry, you're the one I admire the most. Orem's words, more than his previous remark about using power to cast her, set Ivy's mind racing even more. Her heart grew even more chaotic. She did not know if Orem spoke unintentionally or had other intentions. It was only their first meeting. Ivy steadied her mind and tried to chat casually. Mr. Wood and Gale have both expressed their appreciation for me, Ivy replied with a smile, looking ahead. I didn't expect to be so popular. You should do more promotional work. Besides filming, you should attend more commercial events. You're even more beautiful in person than in photos, and you can easily attract a large number of fans. Even I, from admiring you on screen to seeing you in person now, am almost becoming your fan, Orem said casually, but his words occasionally struck Ivy's heartstrings. Fortunately, she remained calm and composed. Having seen too much of the allure of fame and fortune, and having encountered too many men who coveted her beauty, Ivy would not easily allow herself to fall. Regardless of whether Orem was sincere or insincere, she would remain unchanged amidst all changes. Ivy would not curry favor with Orem because of his status, nor did she have any desire to marry into wealth. If she approached a man actively, it would only be because she genuinely liked him. In Ivy's view of love, only genuine emotions were worth giving everything for, even if it meant throwing oneself into the fire. She would not be swayed by fame and fortune, would not bow for power. She would only submit to the man she deeply loved. Moreover, Ivy was very clear that this was their first meeting. Orum's expression cooled for a moment, then returned to normal. Ivy was more difficult to handle than he had imagined. She had not fallen for the bait easily. Perhaps he should start overestimating her instead of underestimating her. Upon reaching their destination, Ivy unbuckled her seatbelt. "Thank you, Orem." "Hmm?" She smiled faintly, her beauty serene yet gentle. "You've helped me twice. I'll remember this kindness. So, how will you thank me? Invite me for a meal?" Ivy was somewhat surprised by his forwardness. She nodded. "Sure, I must treat you. Whenever you're free, let's have a meal together." "Okay," Orem nodded. "Be careful this time." His tease caused her to blush. She felt a bit embarrassed, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear to hide her flushed cheeks, and got out of the car. Chapter 1747. Although Ivy did not turn back, she felt his gaze on her back. It was not until she entered the gate that it went away. Meanwhile, Orem's car slowly drove away. He actually watched her safely enter the studio before leaving. He was indeed considerate and thoughtful. Was this attention to detail just part of his character, or did he genuinely like her? Could it be love at first sight? When Orem rescued her from the skateboarder, she had no idea about his identity. She did not know that the man before her was the CEO of the Lefting Group, a film investor, and that he had the archetype of a sugar daddy numerous female stars would fall over themselves for. Ivy still remembered her first impression of Orem, a classy and refined gentleman. At that time, Ivy did not know that Orem had orchestrated the whole encounter. She was Orem's prey. At night, at Temperley Hall's study, the phone rang. "Hello?" Shawn answered the phone. Fiona's voice came through. "Mr. Wood, I have some findings from what you asked this morning. Speak." The restaurant where Orem dined indeed does stock red wine. However, according to the orders, Orem did not purchase any red wine that night. Shawn furrowed his brows. But there was a bottle of red wine on the table. He had seen it, and Gale also admitted that Orem poured her a glass, and she took a sip. Orem brought it himself. The restaurant was only responsible for uncorking and serving it. They were unaware of anything else, Fiona explained. Shawn snorted coldly. So, Orem brought the red wine himself. Then, he could put whatever he wanted in it with impunity. Shawn even speculated that Orem might have added something to invigorate or stimulate people, and the dosage surely was almost imperceptible. Gale naturally drank very little, so it would not have much effect. Shawn further deduced that Gale happened to be on her period that night, and the drug must have stimulated her body, leading to her severe cramps and double the usual amount of bleeding. In all the years they had been together, Shawn had never seen Gale suffering so much during her period. The more he thought about it, the more anxious Shawn became, slamming his fist heavily on the desk. These were just his speculations, and he could not produce any substantial evidence for now. Surely, Orem had disposed of the wine now. If Shawn were to tell Gale now, she would not believe it. At this moment, Shawn was only grateful that he arrived at the restaurant to fetch Gale in time. What might have happened if he had been even a little later was unimaginable. Shawn felt a wave of fear. Understood. Don't let anyone know about this matter, especially Orem, so as not to alert him. Mr. Wood, rest assured. Hanging up the phone, Shawn pressed his temples. Orem was the prime suspect, but he would also be the most difficult to obtain evidence against. Chapter 1748. If there was not enough evidence, confronting Orem would give him a chance to argue and make his future actions more cautious, making it harder to gather evidence. Moreover, Gale trusted Orem enough. After all, for her, Orem, who had helped for so many years, was selflessly devoted without asking for anything in return, and was still her childhood friend. How could he possibly do anything to harm her or betray her trust? It would be hard to make his case. Shawn suspected the photos were also orchestrated by Orem. He decided to practice caution. Shawn got up and walked out. At this moment, there was a knock on the study door. Mr. Wood! What's the matter? Summer is here. She's downstairs with Gale and the kids, the housekeeper reported. It was quite normal for Summer to be here. She was the godmother of the two children, and also Gale's best friend. He can tolerate her as long as Summer does not badmouth him in front of Gale. After all, he would have to deal with Summer for the rest of his life. The housekeeper added, "But," cough, "Mr. Winter is also here. However, Summer won't let him in, so Joe is at the front gate." Shawn raised his eyebrows slightly. Is Summer blocking Joe at his home's gate? What was going on? Got it? Shawn walked downstairs. Looked like he would be entertained tonight. Before, it was Joe watching him. Now, the tables have turned, and he finally gets to watch Joe's affairs play out. In the living room, Summer sat on the sofa, looking a bit absent-minded, holding a cup of hot water, tilting it slowly until the water spilled on her. Summer was scalded back to her senses. "What are you thinking about?" Gale quickly took out a tissue and helped her dry off. "If you want to see Joe, just see him. Why stop him and then think about him?" Summer immediately retorted, "Who wants to see him?" "Then why were you daydreaming?" "First, I was thinking that I could avoid him for a moment. But I can't avoid him for a lifetime. She could stay at Temperley Hall that night. What about tomorrow night? The night after? This could not go on. Which bad person is stalking you and bullying you? Who is it? You tell me. I'll go teach him a lesson right now," Joshua asked. He struck a pose full of vigor. "I've learned how to fight. I'm an expert. Uncle Pearton taught me several moves. I guarantee I can knock the bad guy to the ground and make him obedient," Joshua said proudly. He threw some punches quite skillfully. Looked like Pearton taught him diligently, and he learned very attentively. Summer looked at him. "Joshua, you're the best, knowing to help me. Hey, men are only cute when they're young. Unfortunately, when you grow up, you'll become like your dad and Joe, a pair of scoundrels." Joshua was standing tall, but when he heard this, he shook violently. "Huh? Am I a scoundrel?" No, not you. I meant Joe," Summer hurriedly explained. Chapter 1749. Aha! Joshua was even more shocked. "The bad person you've been complaining to my mom about is my godfather?" "Yes, it's him." Joshua looked conflicted. He slowly stood up, scratching his head. What should he do now? On one side was his godmother. On the other was his godfather. Who should he support? "My godfather is actually a really nice guy," Joshua tried to speak up for Joe. "He's funny, handsome, and has good manners. He never puts on airs. He's much nicer than Shawn." His impression of Joe was very good. From the moment they met, Joe had helped him, deliberately giving him the hotel room card to help him escape from Shawn's clutches. "Oh, so, in your heart, Joshua, Joe is much better than me?" Shawn's voice sounded faintly. Cough, 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 cough. Joshua suddenly coughed violently. Damn! Why did Shawn always hear it whenever someone spoke ill of him? He was just everywhere. "No, you misunderstood. What I meant was, Godfather is a really nice person, just as good as you," Joshua replied. Both Gale and Summer cast disdainful glances at him. Even Nicole subconsciously distanced herself from him. She did not want to stand with her boot-licking brother. However, Joshua could not care less. Until he went to the space station and saw the spaceship. The number one person in his heart would always be Shawn and no one else. Even Mommy would take the back seat. "Is that so?" Shawn walked over, his big hand gently falling on Joshua's head, a fatherly expression on his face. "Then go bring your godfather in." "I go get him? How do I get him? I can't drive." "He's right outside." Joshua was dumbfounded again, looking at Summer. "Godmother, you were just bad-mouthing my mom about Godfather?" He even doubted his own ears. How could Godfather be that way? He felt like the person Godmother described was simply despicable. He heard stories about this man stalking her, touching her, clinging on to her. That person turned out to be Godfather? It was inconceivable. "What did she say? Say it again for me to hear," Shawn asked. He did not want to offend either Godmother or Shawn. Joshua started playing dumb, turning around to look at Nicole. "Hey, our cartoon is about to start. It's time. Nicole, change the channel quickly. Don't miss it." At this moment, he was acting like a 5-year-old kid who only knew how to watch cartoons. Joshua really knew how to use his identity and switch back and forth effortlessly. Shawn bent down and sat on the sofa, glancing at Summer. "Are you here to visit Gale or to deliberately avoid Joe?" Both? Is that not okay? Summer replied. I didn't say it wasn't. Summer put her cup down, feeling very annoyed. Think about it. In the past, when I wanted to see Gale, I'd just grab some beer and go to her place and chat all night. But now, it's different. She's married with a husband and children, focusing on the family. I've become an outsider. Unimportant. I came to escape my troubles, but I didn't expect it to be so miserable. Sigh, I should just leave. Chapter 1750. With that, Summer got up. What's this? Gale grabbed her. No one's chasing you away, and nobody's avoiding you. I know. I'm not blaming you guys, it's my own problem. Gale firmly pressed her down. If you go out now, you'll definitely run into Joe. He hasn't left yet. I'll go out the back door. Your house is so big, there should be several doors, right? Summer looked around. Are you really planning to leave? Otherwise, should I go meet Joe? Gale looked conflicted. How about you just give in to him? Say that again? Gale shook her head. How about you just be with him? Summer almost jumped up. I asked you for help to come up with a solution, not to matchmake me with Joe. Just give it a try. It's been so many years. Gale persisted, managing to pull Summer back. He's not just messing around. He's sincere. Give him a chance, and give yourself a chance at a relationship. Gale said, if he dares to treat you even the slightest bit badly, you can dump him at any time. I'll help you scold him to death. Besides, Joe's character is still good. Right, Shawn? Gale looked at him, signaling with her eyes. They're in cahoots? Men always cover for each other. Summer sneered disdainfully. Shawn listened to their conversation and probably guessed. Shawn asked, Did Joe confess to you? Summer stood up abruptly. How did you know? Did he tell you in advance? Did you give him the idea? It was true, Joe confessed. Since the last time in the garage when Joe brought up that bet, Summer realized he would not give up like this. There would be more to come. She avoided him, never daring to make eye contact with Joe at the office. To prevent him from entering her office, she always locked the door. However, you could not guard against a man. When a man wants to chase a woman, he will go to any lengths. So, when Summer tried to keep avoiding him, Joe cornered her and confessed in the garage. This time, Joe was not going to let her go. So, in a panic, Summer did not know what to do and ended up running to Temperley Hall. Shawn replied calmly, Anyone with eyes can see that he likes you. Then, Shawn added, Especially since he came back to town. Summer tried to argue. He's just too bored. He got a little fat while we were away. Which woman would still like him? He had no choice but to target me. Shawn countered. Honestly, for a man like Joe, even if he turned into a pig, there would be plenty of women willing to be with him. Summer was speechless, yet she knew it was true. With his looks and wealth, Joe really had it all. Even without the looks, just being tall and wealthy were already hard conditions for an ordinary person to meet. Moreover, Joe was not ugly. Gale even thought his extra weight made him look buff. Summer had no way to argue back.